Welcome to the Bernard Lee Poker Show. We are fortunate to have this gentleman on as we've been talking about the 2020 Shooting Star Bay 101 main event. Of course, we've had on several people that have played in the event. Craig Varnell, Christy Bicknell, Anthony Zeno. We've had on Matt Savage. This gentleman ended up taking home fourth place for over $110,000. Tyler we're talking with Tyler Patterson, who not only finished in fourth place in that event, but also has won a WSOP bracelet and a WPT title. We have talked with a lot of people already, Tyler, about that day. And really, this was the first major tournament that was affected in the sense of that it was being played and something had to happen. It was the last major tournament that was finished up before all of a sudden this pandemic started shutting everything down. And so what I wanted to do with you was really kind of go through the process of your thought process throughout, not only during the event itself, but also prior to that, because I know you went to Thunder Valley, which was right before the event as well. I'm going to do this. I've done this on every single video. So for those of you who have watched all my videos and heard all of my podcasts, I'm sorry. This is kind of like on rewind and autoplay, but I really want to make sure if someone hasn't heard any of the other interviews first, that we preface this. Back then, and the Bay 101 was March 11th to March 13th, this was a different time than it is now. Of course, in today's day and age, everything is in lockdown. It's very, very different. And if you hear some of the stories, some of you may say, like, I don't understand why we're even discussing this. Of course they should have shut down. That's not the way it was back on March 11th. Put it in perspective, people were still working. People were still in school. My kids were still in school. There was no shutdown across the country as of yet. However, on that day one, on March 11th, the NBA officially announced that it was postponing its season moving forward. So again, I just want to really put that into perspective again for everyone so that people aren't just shaking their head saying, I don't understand. Why would they even consider playing it? That wasn't the case at that time. So now, having done that, I'm off of my soapbox now. Let's kind of talk about it from your perspective, Tyler. You went to went to Thunder Valley first, primarily because A, you grew up in the Sacramento area, but B, you're kind of an ambassador for Thunder Valley, right?
So yeah, I am Thunder Valley's national ambassador, but this is all part of what used to be the WPT
Right.
California swing,
Correct.
So I went to LAPC first.
Right.
And then from there to Thunder Valley, and then from Thunder Valley to Bay 101. And yeah, the whole pandemic was kind of, it was new. We didn't know exactly what was going on, but it was on the back of our minds by the time LAPC main event started. There was some discussion about whether it was responsible to put a bunch of people in a room or to play poker at all. And at the time, it seemed like it was still mostly okay.
Right.
At least by the LAPC main event. Most people weren't scared of it yet.
Right.
So played the LAPC main event and then went to Thunder Valley. By the time I was at Thunder Valley, which was a little bit before the Rolling Thunder main event, there were signs that less people were coming out.
Right.
There were international travel bans, but no one was too scared about it in the United States yet. We had I think by the time the Thunder Valley main event started is when we heard the first case of it happening in the United States in Washington. Maybe the first person died in Washington State in a nursing home, I think. So most of the news was, if you're young and healthy, you're fine.
Right.
If you're old, you're at risk, so you should not be around crowds.
So obviously that doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't concern you in a general sense, but for you personally, well, I'm young. If I get this, what at the time was seen as another flu epidemic, if I get it, I'll be sick.
That was part of it, but it also seemed like we weren't even really that at risk of getting it yet, because there were travel bans and there wasn't anything going on in the United States yet. During the Thunder Valley main event, which I got 10th in, by the way. So close to the final table there at
Yeah.
the WPT Rolling Thunder. And I got to do my, the national ambassador stuff for Thunder Valley. We have the Top Golf outing and do lots of fun stuff at Thunder Valley. But then we all had to sort of decide if we're still going to Bay 101
Right.
or not. And I was in constant contact with, Matt Savage and the other people, the administration at Thunder Valley, at Bay 101, whether or not it's going to happen. And it sounded like the tournament was going to happen. Nothing was getting shut down yet. So once we learned that it is almost definitely happening, I was a shooting star, so I want to represent.
Sure.
I want to go. It's a really fun event. Now we have to kind of decide: is it responsible to go and play this event?
Right.
And at the time, it seemed like it was kind of borderline. Like I was probably healthy, but if I go and travel, maybe I'm putting more people at risk. I live here with just my girlfriend. We're both young and healthy, so I'm not putting anyone at risk, like family-wise. So I don't know. It was a tough decision at the time, but there wasn't a ton of news yet.
Right.
And actually, Matt Savage wrote a nice blog piece. I think it's on
Yes.
WPT.com maybe.
Right.
And that with a bunch of updated timestamps of when things start closing, what news happens.
Right.
And most of that happened the day of day one at Bay 101.
Right. So you were with Matt really the entire time. We talked with Matt about his journey from LAPC to Thunder Valley to Bay 101, and you rode with Matt from Thunder Valley to Bay 101, right?
Yeah, and also final tableist Anthony Zeno rode in that vehicle with us too.
So what conversations were going on? Were you guys talking about it, or
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we even had a little discussion at dinner before discussing whether or not we're going, and they decided they're having the tournament, right. And we all felt relatively safe, so we decided we're going to go and see what happens. And in the car that day, this is the day before the Shooting Star starts. The day before is when the stock market first had a big drop.
Right, right.
So that's an alert that now things are getting serious. And Anthony watches that really closely.
Right,
and
right.
You had him on as a guest, so
right.
He was talking in that sense. Matt was concerned about what they're supposed to do at Bay 101, or if the casino is going to be open. No casino had shut down yet.
Right.
And yeah, they decided the tournament was going to happen, and I was excited to play. It's a really fun tournament.
It's a great event. I've played in it a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah. So we all decided that it was safe enough, and if they close down, then we don't have a tournament. But if they're going to be open, at least the authorities have.
Right.
They've decided it's safe enough for that many people.
So you played day one, right, which was March 11th. Playing as usual. I think that Matt had said that they were taking some precautions with regards to sanitizing and wiping down the tables. Did that seem slightly different than what you've seen in the past? And were there other people wearing masks at all?
Yeah, so it started with that at Thunder Valley. Every break they were wiping down tables, and there was hand sanitizer everywhere, and there was little signs throughout the casino just saying, "Hey, wash your hands," and there's hand sanitizers everywhere. And then that carried over into at Bay 101. They were clearly thinking about it. They were handing out gloves if people wanted them. They had sanitizer everywhere, and they were cleaning the tables every break. So it was clear that something was going on, and we were taking precautions to be safe. There was, I think the governor had said no gatherings of over 1,000 people.
Right.
So being in a crowded casino was a little bit worrisome, but there wasn't 1,000 people there, so
right.
It seems okay. And then by the time we got to day two, now there's only, I don't know, maybe 75 people left in the tournament,
right.
And they say no gatherings of 250 people.
Right.
So you can kind of feel the door, the world
right.
closing in around us,
right.
which felt a little bit strange.
How was it at the end of day one So it happened for us right around like 9-ish or something like that, maybe 8:30, 9-ish p.m. So obviously West Coast, bring it back 3 hours, 5:30, 6 o'clock. NBA announces that they're now postponing their season. How did that, how was that trickling through the room? Was there a buzz? How did, when you heard about it, what kind of went through your mind, and what was the reaction of everybody?
There was definitely a buzz in the room about it. It started off with everyone just being a little bit apprehensive, but a lot of people didn't think it was that big of a deal. But then I think by noon, I mean, the tournament starts at 10 a.m. there.
Right,
So
right.
by noon, there might have been some alerts about different leagues doing different things, like NCAA postponing certain
A lot of
things.
colleges were like postponing their spring seasons and things like that.
Yeah, and conferences, the conference tournaments for NCAA were starting to shut down. I
Right,
think.
right. I think at that time it was maybe the day before, no crowd was allowed to play. They were going to play, but there were going to be no crowds, because I know that the Division 3 basketball tournament happened the weekend before, and then there was discussions maybe the following weekend, no crowds, and then the NCAA said that there would be the Division 1 said that there would be no crowds.
Right. So throughout the day, that news was building, and so people were, definitely discussing it more and more, whether we should actually be here or not. And there was a rumor around Bay101 having a positive case, but that was not that was never confirmed, and even kind of debunked, but not necessarily. But Santa Clara itself, the county, was kind of a hotspot. It was one of the first hotspots in the United States. So that was a little bit concerning. And then by the end of the day, we're bagging chips. There was some discussion of maybe this place won't be open the following morning. Maybe they're going to shut us down. So I know Matt and Rob Perlman, who was working for the media for Bay101 for this tournament, they put together like an ICM list, the whole chip counts, everyone, just in case they shut down.
Right.
But we didn't really think that was very likely to happen. Right. And so we all go back after dinner, we all go back to our hotel rooms and come back again at 10 a.m. for day 2. And there was a buzz again, but no alert that made us shut down at that time. So we started up day 2.
So let's take one quick step back. We're talking with Tyler Patterson, who ended up taking 4th place at the 2020 Shooting Star Bay101 main event. So you are in 4th chip position, right? You are in a great spot to obviously take a lot of money down. I think first prize was in the 300,000 area. So, obviously tough final table with Zeno and Christian Bicknell and Craig Varnell and yourself and everyone else who was playing. I'm not trying to discount anyone else, but there is a chance that you have a good opportunity to make a significant amount of money and obviously win a fairly prestigious title. But yet this is going on. It must have been like this kind of like, angel devil kind of thing. Like, wow, I could win a really big title and a lot of money. Hey, there's a coronavirus going on. Wow, but I don't want to give this up. I'm in 4th position. How often does that happen? Hey, this is for your health's sake. Was that kind of what was going through your mind as you went to bed on basically it was March 12th?
Yeah, absolutely. So day 2 ends, and now there's 10 people left.
Right.
And they had changed the schedule for day 2 so that we played 2 extra levels.
Right.
And we didn't switch to 90-minute levels at 36 players that the schedule said. We kept it at an hour to try to get through this tournament. At the end of day 2, we had a discussion of maybe just playing more.
Right.
To either get to an actual final table or to even play it out. But some players were tired and didn't want to do that. Right. So again, they ran the calculations for ICM. We didn't want to chop it. There were players who didn't want to chop. I didn't want to. I know.
So there was a discussion at the end of day 2. At least it was brought up.
It was brought up, but it was pretty quickly shut down. And there was multiple people shutting it down. So we didn't have not everybody discussed it. It was just quickly shut down. So we go to bed thinking there's a chance that it might be shut down the next day. It's not. So we start up the next day. And it is a little more uncomfortable again because there's a little bit more news about things shutting down. But there's, blackjack tables running and 4 or 5 live games running. So, I mean, the casino's still open. Everything's still going on as normal. So we're going to play. And Being fourth in chips was nice, and there was 2 tables still. We
Right.
weren't exactly at the final table yet. There were less chips on my table. There was a local who, I mean, he played well, but it's a big stage for him, and he was in on a qualifying, had satellited in, so I had a distinct edge over this player, I think, and just a great chip position and a great spot. So I was excited to play. So anyway, on day 3, this is when we're starting back up 10-handed. Michael Tereniak, I think that's his name. He's a Swedish pro, I think.
Yep.
He felt fine the night before, but he came in wearing a mask and visibly miserable. He was definitely not feeling well, and there's no reason for him to fake this for any reason, because he had a good chip position and he's a professional poker player. There's a lot of money to be made for him, so he's not faking it.
Right.
So now he says, I'm not feeling well, and is there something we can do about this? And also Lexi Gavin is sitting right next to him, and then Zeno is also on the other side. And Lexi and Zeno were very shook by having to play with Michael, and Michael didn't want to play.
Right.
So now the 10 of us have a discussion about whether we're going to chop it up ICM-wise or not. And part of me definitely doesn't want to, because I love this position that I'm in. I'm getting,
of course.
I paid out $113,000 for 4th place in ICM, which is a great deal. It's a big score. It's fine. But $300,000 for first.
Right.
And I like the situation I'm in EV-wise. I want to play. But I'm not going to hold these people hostage with this thing with their heads, and say, hey, you have to play because it's good for me.
Right.
So we discussed it for a while, and I don't think anyone was using it as like a way to get their ICM value.
Right.
I think that people were legitimately bothered, concerned by Michael's situation. So one thing we discussed was, can we give Michael his ICM, which was some amount, take his chips out of play, and then continue playing? And it sounded like everyone was sort of in agreement with that. And then someone pipes up, hey, I want to do that too.
I want to do the right, of course, right.
Yeah, and
all of a sudden people are starting to weigh the factor. Wait a second, I can be guaranteed this amount of money and then get the hell out of here and be healthy. Maybe I'd rather do that. Like realistically, some of these people, if they're not going to win first, you're fighting for an extra 20, 30,000 at most. You know what? This isn't worth 20,000. My life is not worth $20,000, $30,000. Let's get the hell out of here.
And I think that some of us had considered that overall, we had played with him the last 2 days, a bunch of hours. So
if you had it, you had it.
Probably already have it.
Right.
So I don't think that playing an extra 6 hours with him is really risking much, but trying to have that conversation with someone who's scared.
Right.
It just didn't work out. So we all kind of just gave in.
How long did the discussion take? How long was this discussion in play? Because you and I are talking about it seems like, it was just a quick, but if I'm understanding kind of through the people, this wasn't just a 30-second conversation. This was a conversation that went back and forth because there were your contingency, and again, this isn't a blame. You were wrong. That's not what I'm saying. It's just more of like I know Craig has said it, Christy has said it, that they wanted to play, and then and Anthony Zeno came on last week of saying that he didn't. I know Lexi said that, I've heard that Lexi didn't as well, and other people, again, I'm not pinning them versus you, just more of how long did this conversation go back and forth before eventually it was kind of, as I've said when I interviewed Craig, the greater good kind of stood up for and went forward.
It probably was about an hour, maybe a little bit less.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that long. Wow.
That might be exaggerated, but we're all seated, ready to play at, I think it was 10 a.m. again, and it was clear there was a little bit of a delay right away. The cards just were not going to get in the air by 10 anyway, because people were milling around, and there was kind of this buzz and a weird atmosphere.
Right.
So we start discussing it probably by 10:15, and I would say it might have been by 11 that we had solved it, that we weren't going to play.
Wow.
It might have been a little bit faster than that, but no one who wanted to play, like Craig, Kristen, and me wanted to play, but no one really said that too loudly because socially that's too...
Right. It's tough. It's a tough spot.
Yeah, like it just sounds so cold to say. I mean, you're almost like you're like using it as leverage to get a better deal or to play for more money, and it's just socially that's so awkward that even if it was rational to say, hey, we all got it anyway, no one really wanted to voice that too much. So it went back and forth a little bit, but no one was really on the side of let's play. You guys are being chicken, So, but Anthony and Lexi and Bob Mather, Lexi's boyfriend, I think the three of them sort of. It was probably mostly them trying to shut it down, and Michael had stayed out of it. He didn't want to.
Yeah.
His opinion.
Obviously, we're not saying Michael. Again, I haven't talked with Michael, but I assume Michael didn't want to play because he's asking for the scenario, right? So it's obvious, right? So
it was clear he didn't want to play, but he didn't really complain about it
He feels uncomfortable that he's now the center point and the focal point of this literal discussion, and now suddenly become the poster boy for coronavirus at Bay101.
Yeah, exactly, and so he wasn't ever tested. So I heard somebody on the show, I think, said that
Matt Savage said that he did not have it.
Well, yeah. I don't think he ever got tested.
Oh, okay. So you don't know, right?
He didn't feel better when he got home. The travel ban affected him also. He had to head back to Sweden. I think he was planning on staying all the way through the World Series.
Oh, I see.
He had to head back because of the ban to Europe or whatever, the flight restrictions.
Right.
But yeah, when he got home, he had told us that he had told Anthony and Matt that he felt a lot better and he was okay.
Good. Well, it is an absolute crazy scenario, obviously, for this. What have you been doing now? We see the reflection in the background of a beautiful day in Las Vegas. Have you been able to go down onto the Strip and walk around and literally see the city that, is so vibrant all the time? I mean, every time I go to Vegas, I always shake my head going like, wow, it's unbelievable. Everyone comes here no matter when we're here. Yeah. And that literally you have casinos that are, I mean, forget the casinos, the streets are bare. And if I'm correct, a lot of these casinos now have barriers in front, so you couldn't even drive up to them if you wanted to, right?
They do, yeah. My girlfriend and I are runners to stay fit, and so we've been running up and down the Strip a lot. And there's not a lot of people, so you're plenty socially distant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the casinos are shut down. You can run right on the street of the Strip some of the time.
Amazing if you think about it, huh?
And there's groups of bicyclists up and down the Strip a lot. It's weird to see. There's actual boards up on some of the casinos.
Wow.
It's a weird vibe.
Yeah. Well, we know that the mayor of Las Vegas went on CNN with Anderson Cooper and had some people watch it if you don't know what I'm saying. Some very unreasonable discussions, but it does seem like, and the governor of Nevada shut that down very quickly. But it does look like it could be a long time. Obviously, the World Series of Poker has been postponed officially, and shooting for the fall. But you just, again, not saying they're right or wrong or anything. You just don't know. We're in such an unusual time right now, waiting for testing and waiting for contact reporting, etc., to find out exactly how this all, until we know. And of course, the holy grail is the vaccine, but that's probably at least 12 to 18 months away. It's an unbelievable time to be there, and you haven't been in Vegas that long, right? You were in Arizona for a long time, and then just recently moved to Vegas. So this must be really unusual.
Yeah. I mean, I'm from Seattle. I lived in Arizona for a little bit. Now I've been here. Honestly, we were only renting here for a year, maybe two, before we decided to buy here or maybe move back to Arizona. Not really sure. Just wanted to try it out. But a big part of that is the 7 months or 7 weeks that I'm here for the World Series.
Right.
And this year, I don't even know if that's going to happen. So
right.
Kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a small problem compared to all the service industry
Of
people,
course.
all the casino workers, everybody being out of work right now. It's kind of a tough time in Vegas.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, especially because that's literally what the economy is focused and centered around, right? All the to tourism, et cetera. And that's not only is it not happening now, but even when the doors slightly open up, I don't think there's ever going to be a switch where you're like, okay, back to normal. That's not really what it is. Even when that happens, who's going to say the first place is I'm just going to fly into Vegas? Well, that's where I'm going to go. I mean, that's just not
Right.
the first thing you're going to do. Last question, because on a personal level, we're so sad that here in Massachusetts we don't have golf. Is there golfing there available in Vegas? Like, are some courses open, or driving ranges, etc.?
Nevada shut down golf about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So me and some other of our friends, we drove to Arizona to where there was socially distant open golf
Oh,
courses.
that's amazing. Yeah, that's really what it's come down to, I'm sure. Well, Tyler, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you giving us your perspective of what happened at Bay 101, and it's an incredible time. It's incredible for that you were part of it, and then you can always look back on that moment. But again, really appreciate your time. All the best, and hopefully we will see each other when we get back on the felt. Literally, who knows how long that'll be.
Thanks a lot, Bernard.
Tyler Patterson here. Really appreciate his time. Not only a WPT and WSOP winner, but finished fourth in that recent 2020 Shooting Star Bay 101. Next week, it's incredible. 13th anniversary of the Bernard Lee Poker Show. We're very pleased. We'll be kicking it off with the real deal himself, Real Kid Poker. Daniel Negreanu will be on talking about his world right now, but as always, may you always go in with the best hand, and may you never get unlucky. Good night, everybody. Hey, Tyler, thanks so much for coming on the Bernard Lee Poker Show.
Thanks for having me, man. And guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to Bernard Lee's Poker Show.